Welcome back, friends, to the mystery of Jack the Ripper. This is part 2. The silence left behind by the murders does not bring peace. Instead, it becomes a vacuum into which speculation rushes. In the absence of answers, London invents them. Every unanswered question multiplies. Every rumor hardens into belief. The Ripper may be gone, but his presence lingers, haunting conversations, courtrooms, police files, and the imagination of an entire world. In the weeks after the final canonical murder, detectives quietly continue their work. Leads are followed long after the newspapers lose interest. Men are watched. Lodging houses are searched. Asylums are visited. Doctors are questioned. But each trail dissolves into uncertainty. The case grows cold, not because it lacks suspects, but because it has too many. The police files swell with names. Local men with violent tempers. Slaughterhouse workers accustomed to blood. Foreign sailors passing briefly through the docks. Medical students whose knowledge of anatomy raises suspicion. Even gentlemen of status, protected by wealth and influence, are whispered about in private correspondence. The Ripper could be anyone. That is the terror of it. One of the most troubling aspects of the investigation is how ordinary the killer might have been. There is no clear witness description that definitively sets him apart. Reports describe a man of average height, wearing unremarkable clothing, blending easily into the night crowds. He does not stand out. He belongs. This possibility unsettles Victorian society more than the idea of a madman or a monster. If Jack the Ripper is ordinary, then evil is not something distant or exotic. It is domestic, familiar. It walks the same streets and drinks in the same pubs. As months turn into years, the murders pass from immediate horror into historical curiosity. But they never fade completely. Instead, they are preserved in ink and rumor. Police memoranda are archived. Letters are stored away. The evidence becomes static, frozen in time, while the world moves on. And then, slowly, the theories begin to harden. Some focus on madness. The brutality of the crimes suggests a psychological compulsion, an uncontrollable urge. Modern minds would label it psychopathy or sexual sadism. But Victorian language lacks such precision. The killer is described as insane, deranged, or possessed by moral insanity. Asylums are combed for patients released shortly before the murders or admitted soon after. Others focus on skill. The removal of organs implies knowledge. This leads suspicion towards surgeons, physicians, and medical students. One name emerges repeatedly in later years: Montague John Druitt, a barrister with medical training who drowned himself shortly after the murders ceased. His death is suspicious. His family history includes mental illness. Some believe he killed himself because he feared capture. Others argue the evidence is circumstantial at best. Another suspect, Aaron Kosminski, was a Polish-Jewish immigrant living in Whitechapel. He suffered from mental illness and was later committed to an asylum. A police memorandum written years after the murders suggests that Kosminski was strongly suspected, but never charged due to lack of evidence and an unwilling witness. His name becomes one of the most frequently cited in Ripper studies, though certainty remains elusive. Then there is George Chapman, born Severin Klosowski, a barber surgeon who later poisoned multiple wives and was executed in 1903. His violent history and medical background make him a compelling candidate for some. Yet there is no direct link tying him to the Whitechapel murders beyond proximity and possibility. Other suspects are more sensational. A royal conspiracy theory emerges, suggesting that Prince Albert Victor, grandson of Queen Victoria, was the killer or was protected from exposure. According to this narrative, the murders were covered up to prevent scandal. Historians largely dismiss this theory as implausible, yet its endurance speaks to the public's appetite for dramatic explanations and distrust of authority. There are artists, writers, and eccentrics proposed as suspects. There are claims that the killer fled to America, became another murderer under a different name, or died unnoticed in poverty. Each theory promises resolution. None can deliver it. Part of what sustains the mystery is the nature of the evidence itself. Much of it is lost, destroyed, or unreliable. Witness statements conflict. Police reports contradict one another. Letters attributed to the Ripper are almost certainly forgeries, but which ones, if any, are genuine remains debated. Even the list of victims is not universally agreed upon. The term Canonical Five is applied retrospectively, grouping Nichols, Chapman, Stride, Eddowes, and Kelly together as victims of the same hand. But other women were murdered in similar circumstances before and after 1888. Were they victims of the same killer, or separate crimes absorbed into the myth? The boundary between fact and legend blurs. Mary Jane Kelly's murder, in particular, stands apart. Unlike the others, she was killed indoors, in the privacy of her room. Her body was mutilated beyond recognition, far more extensively than the previous victims. Some believe this represents the killer's final escalation. Others argue it was the act of a different murderer altogether. If Kelly was not a Ripper victim, then the narrative changes dramatically. If she was, then the killer ended his spree in a frenzy of unparalleled violence. The ambiguity is endless. As decades pass, the case becomes a mirror reflecting the era examining it. In the early 20th century, the focus is on criminal degeneracy and moral decay. In the mid-century, psychoanalytic interpretations emerge, framing the Ripper as a symbol of repressed sexuality and patriarchal violence. In the modern age, forensic science is applied retroactively, with DNA tests conducted on stamps and envelopes, yielding inconclusive and contested results. Each generation believes it might finally solve the mystery. Each generation fails. The victims, meanwhile, risk being lost beneath the weight of speculation. Their lives are reduced to footnotes, their deaths overshadowed by the killer's notoriety. Polly Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly, they become symbols rather than people. Yet each had a story, relationships, hopes and fears, long before their final moments. They lived hard lives in an unforgiving city. Alcohol offered temporary escape. Poverty dictated choices. Society judged them harshly while offering little help. Their murders shocked the world, but their suffering before death was largely ignored. This imbalance raises uncomfortable questions. Why does the killer fascinate more than the victims? Why does mystery eclipse empathy? Jack the Ripper becomes immortal, while his victims are remembered primarily for how they died. The answer lies partly in narrative. Humans crave stories with beginnings, middles, and ends. The Ripper story has a beginning and a middle, but no end. That unresolved structure compels attention. It demands interpretation. It invites participation. Whitechapel itself becomes a character in the story. Tours are conducted. Books are written. Films are made. The streets where blood once pooled become points on a map, marked by plaques and commentary. History is commodified. Horror becomes heritage. And yet, despite commercialization, the core mystery resists closure. What if the truth is mundane? What if Jack the Ripper was simply a violent man who exploited circumstance and then disappeared into anonymity? No confession, no dramatic downfall, just a return to obscurity. Such an ending offers little satisfaction, but it may be the most realistic. The absence of resolution forces confrontation with the limits of knowledge. Not all crimes are solved. Not all stories end neatly. Sometimes the past remains fractured, incomplete, and unknowable. And still, the question persists. Who was Jack the Ripper? Was he one of the suspects named and debated endlessly? Or someone never considered, whose name never appeared in a file? Did he feel fear as the police closed in, or confidence in his invisibility? Did he stop because he chose to, or because he was forced to? Perhaps the most disturbing possibility is that he lived out his life unpunished, unremarkable, and forgotten, except for the legacy of terror he left behind. The mystery endures, not because it can be solved, but because it cannot. It exists in the gaps between evidence and imagination, between history and myth. It reminds us that darkness does not always announce itself, and that progress does not erase brutality. Jack the Ripper remains a shadow cast by gaslight, stretching across time, refusing to dissolve. And in that shadow, the unanswered questions wait. And this is not the end of this mystery. To know more, subscribe to our channel. See you in final part.